From what I understand, the doctors will basically decide game day. So right now, we're not anticipating, but obviously if he plays, I'd be fired up about it.
If you're missing a physical deep threat like him, how can you scheme or create that with other
Well, that's
people?
part of the deal you got to do is you got to figure out the best way to get some shots. And unfortunately, right now we haven't had a lot of big plays, and we need to be able to move the chains, but we also need to get chunks of yards, and right now we're not doing very well at that.
How much progress have you seen from Phillip Brooks in that regard, being a guy that can help out
You
there?
know, I think he's playing with a lot more confidence. I think he feels like he can make plays and has shown that he is a guy that can. The hard part for him still is he's not that long-bodied guy that you're going to go stretch the field with. Not that he can't, because he can really, really run, but he's still not that big target.
How's the running game progressed in practice this week with
You
Jordan
know, it's
still out?
that's one of the harder things. Now, when you take Jordan out of the mix and you take Malik out of the mix, now all of a sudden the run game starts getting squeezed because we don't have some of the ability to quote stretch the field and or force someone to cover the back. Now, I feel good about what our O line's doing and what the tight ends are doing. James is still a violent runner. I think will do a nice job for us, but we gotta get going up front a little bit.
Yeah, and along those lines, the offensive line, Adam has continually mentioned like consistency with the line. Do you feel like they've gotten there yet?
I think all of our guys really understand executing, and to execute it means every down. And if it was the tight ends, the receivers, the tailback himself, or the O line, I think all of us understand that for us to be successful, every play we got to get our job done, and I think all of them understand that.
How comfortable are you guys right now with Chris Herron out there at receiver?
Have to become more and more comfortable because he is a guy that with what people would say really good quick twitch. He's a guy that can really create his own space. The hard part is he's a true freshman. Um, some guys pick it up really, really fast. He's not been slow at picking it up. It's just that it's still all so foreign to him, also brand new, being a receiver when he really came in as a quarterback.
Coach mentioned another true freshman in Keenan Garber at receiver on Tuesday. How's he come along the last couple of weeks for you?
It's the same thing for him from the standpoint of it's still now it's Big 12 football. It's you go out there with our corners who I think are really good players, and you say, okay, there's times he does great things, and you go, wow, and then there's other times where they lock him down, and you say, hey, he's a true freshman. It wasn't that long ago he obviously was playing in a high school setting, and now he's playing out there in a Big 12 setting.
Is there anything special you guys need to do to run the ball against this TCU front?
I think it'll go really back to just blocking the guy in front of us. My individual blocks, do I take care of my job? And because I don't think they're going to do a whole bunch of things that will, quote, fool us, but they're very, very good at doing their job over and over again. And it's obviously a tribute to who they are as a defense over the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years that Gary's been there, is they really understand their job and they do their job well.
How different is what they do from a schematic standpoint from the three-man fronts that you've seen the last couple of
Quite
weeks?
a bit different. They're almost all four down. What is similar is their safeties are going to be in the run game. They're going to put their corners somewhat out on an island and play man-to-man technique basically, and then let their safeties be run player fit guys also.
After Malik, who would you say is the best deep threat in your receiving core?
Crazy enough, just because of understanding how to get open and how to play, probably Dalton. And part of it is probably also that trust factor that Skylar has.
What type of a threat does Garrett Wallow bring to their defense, and like just in terms of needing to get out, get him blocked, and not necessarily avoid him, but make.
Yeah, I don't know that any of their guys you would say, wow, we have to run specifically away from any of their guys, but I do think that a number of their guys, because they're so athletic, none of them are huge. They're not linebackers like we've maybe seen the last 3 or 4 weeks where you'd say there's a 240-pound, there's another 240-pound linebacker, 2 or 3 of those guys. They get off blocks really, really well, and they run. Their D-line, very similar. They are not guys that you'd say a bunch of 330-pounders, but they're athletic, they're quick, and they get off blocks.
What are the teams, whether it's SMU or anybody else who's had some success against this defense, like what do they do well in your mind?
Well, a couple things. I think some of the guys were obviously going in what people would call tempo, going fast, up-tempo stuff. And then, SMU's really a system style that is go fast, but also throw the ball and live and die a little bit by the throwing game. I think that there's a little bit you could take from all of the teams they've played that hopefully we can use. The hard part, though, is you don't want to be, quote, grab bagging and be all over the place. We still want to be true to who we want to be, and that's we need to be able to run the football.
You anticipate Joe Irvin continuing to have a larger role?
Yes, he needs to, and he will. I anticipate him playing more and more reps as the season continues.
What's been the main emphasis on the recruiting trail, given that you've had two weeks to get out and do some of that the last couple of weeks?
Well, we're fortunate. We've got a number of young men committed. Probably the main emphasis is making sure that those guys are still in with who we are and believe in us. And then it's going out and trying to evaluate new guys, trying to get guys that we've already evaluated excited about who we are, and then finding new guys.
Is there a certain position that is
Right now,
need right now?
right now you would say that we're recruiting all positions. I don't think we're at a point yet in our program at this point where you'd say, hey, we're only looking for specifically this guy or specifically that guy. We need to keep trying to find the best players we can find.
Sticking with what Kellis is talking about, do you notice any difference when you talk to a kid now than 6-7 weeks ago before you guys have coached a game yet? Here?
Not really. It's amazing. I think we've done a really nice job of identifying guys that fit who we are. I think they understand what we're going to be and what we want to be. So all the phone conversations I've had have been extremely positive, and I feel great with them.